Um, so everybody, welcome to the first Zoom meeting of 2023. I hope you guys all had great holidays, a happy new year, and we're going to kick off a little bit on the slower side here. We have some good first before I get started is um, um, first thing I want to think about is, do we have any announcements to share with the club that are notable?
John, could you make me a co-host so I can record?
I absolutely can.
Hey, John,
Yes.
I brought a little something for show and tell.
Sure, that'd be great. Yeah, Bill, because what we'll do, we can do that almost right away, is that if there's no announcements and it's early in the year, I think the only thing that we're starting to think about, of course, is the upcoming NEVI event coming in the first week in March. Because of some discussions, obviously, on email about it, but let's look forward to this. I think it's going to be a great event. I'm sure there'll be some things we'll have to iron out here, but it will be in Castleton and Windham, New Hampshire. Hopefully, got that right. I can't say I've ever been to Windham, New Hampshire, but I look forward to going there. So we'll be getting ourselves prepared to. We'll be discussing amongst the organizers, officers, and so forth about anything we have to do to prepare for that. But that's really the biggest thing in our radar right now, is getting ready for it. And we will be looking forward to seeing as many of you as possible at the event there. But yeah, so I guess the rest of the meeting, what we'll do is we have a couple of things. And it's in no particular order, is anything anyone wants to show and tell. Anything, for example, things that you picked up recently, maybe gave as a gift to yourself for Christmas, or maybe Santa dropped off because you're a particularly good vintage electronics collector, as well as Howard throughout the gauntlet of, since it is Hump Day, that anyone who has a radio with a hump, and be as you can interpret that as far as you can, what constitutes a hump, go and show it. And so I'm all in. I've got something I can show, but and then what we'll do is we'll also have some time to. Tom just took some terrific pictures from Friedrichshafen last year that he has a ton of pictures to show us. So we'll maybe give him some more time to show that, some photos. So I think we have plenty of stuff to cover during the hour and a half or so. And worst comes to worst, I have some photos, but if it came down to that, but I don't think that'll be a problem. So at any rate, why don't we just start with anyone wants to show anything in any of those categories, be new acquisitions, anything you received from Santa, Hump Day radios, anything like that. And since Bill,
I have a couple.
Oh, sure. What we'll do is since Bill asked first, I'll put you right behind, Bob.
Okay.
Hey, Bill, did you want to show what you recently picked up?
Oh, yeah, sure. Let me. I'm gonna pin my own picture so I can see what the camera is picking up. Anyway, as far as Wednesday or Thursday, I'm good for either one, except
Great.
the first Wednesday of each month is our radio club meeting, local. But other than that, and I'm probably all right. And I brought something to do with humps tonight.
Awesome.
I don't know if Tom ever showed this, but I got this from Tom. And I don't know. How many Camelback keys have I got in my hand?
How many keys you have?
One.
Actually, I've got one.
It's a micro key.
Yeah. Well, I like miniature keys. I can get quite a few of them in a little small box. So this one was made fairly recently. I don't know exactly when. was made by Gil Schleman, who's a ham operator and has probably the largest collection of mechanical bugs in the country. He's located out in Chicago. I haven't heard much about Gil lately. Maybe Tom has seen him or spoke with him, but
He's still going strong.
oh, good. And anyway, I haven't been to an AWA meeting in several years, and I used to meet Gil out there. But he's a darn good machinist. He's done some restoration work, gorgeous on the Marconi. What do they call that? Anyway, it's the Titanic key, the Marconi, and he's done some work on that. He got it out of me a few years ago before I quite knew what I had, but I did all right on it. I knew what it was, but
That's terrific.
the market's changed a little.
Bill, hold that key a little bit further away from the lens and it'll focus better. Keep going away.
There you go. That helps. That's
Talk a bit so your picture comes up.
John, I have a hump thing.
oh, very good. Well, so we'll do is we'll have you follow Bob there, Adrian.
Okay.
That's really nice. That can't be more than a couple inches long, maybe 3 tops.
I think the base is a little under 2. I'll tell you, let me see.
Have you actually made a contact with it?
It's the base is exactly 2 inches,
Okay.
and overall it's about 2 1/4.
Wow. Impressive for the
Bill,
size.
have you actually made a contact with it?
Have I made what with it?
A contact with it?
A QSO.
I've got my hearing aids on, but
Have you made a contact with that key, Bill?
oh no, I haven't. In fact, the contacts are off of the gold-plated Benell miniature key that was sold a few years ago. I don't know how he got the gold-plated ones, but he's a wheeler and dealer from way back.
I think you have to put that on straight key night next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might. I don't know. I can't. I don't know if these little the contacts, they're not functional. You'd have to jigger them up, and it doesn't have any got a long throw for me. Well, it's got a 32nd of an inch gap, and that's a long throw for a straight key for me. I usually take most of the tension out of the spring, drop the key contact till it makes contact with the anvil, and then I just raise it up enough so it stops. It reliably doesn't make a contact. So it's probably the thickness of a sheet of printer paper is my typical spacing.
I see. So you wouldn't be thinking about modifying it, would you?
Think about what?
Modifying it to
Modifying it.
yeah. Would you consider changing it to make it more satisfying for you?
No, I don't think I'll touch it.
Oh, okay.
I usually don't like to modify what I've got. If I've got something that's got a wrong part on it and I can get the correct part for it, I'll do that. But I normally don't try to modify something that just wasn't designed the way I like it.
Oh, I see. That's great, Bill. That's really neat. Still for the size, impressive.
Yeah, I've got a box that's about the size of a cigar box, and I probably got 15 or 20 keys in it.
Wow.
I'm showing a bunch of them from time to time.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
adorable.
well, thank you, Bill. So Bob, I think you were next.
Oh, it's great. You know, I can visualize. There used to be a Kia car commercial. I think it was the Soul, and they had these four hamsters driving the Kia Soul up to a club,
Mhm.
and you know they would get out and they'd go in the club. They should redo that commercial and then use Bill's key and then show the hamsters driving the field day, and they get out and they're taking the key and working the key.
I like it.
Oh, that'd be so cool. Anyway, let me show you what I got for Christmas. I got we had the gift exchange game at the NJARC Christmas party, and I don't know if you watched the video, but you can see how the game basically worked. But my wife actually was in the thing this year, and I kind of hinted to her what box to go steal from somebody.
Nice.
And I got these. Now, I didn't know that there were two radios in this. There's like a shoebox with two transistors in it. I thought it was just one. But I saw the one radio, it was kind of rare, not necessarily valuable, but rare. And I said, that'd be kind of a fun radio to get. So it's this one right here. I'm pulled up in front of the camera. This is an RCA Victor. Let me read the model number of it. 4RG62. I think it's 1961 or 62. It's probably not the best picture in the world. It's an A transistor, as with early 50s, early 60s RCAs. They were kind of like, they were okay for the local stations. They weren't exactly the X machines, but it's capable of getting like AM 740 and maybe a couple of the Chicago stations at night. And there was a predecessor or a similar radio to this, and actually had kind of like a teal blue inset for the dial number right here.
Sure.
It's kind of spin that around to tune it, which is kind of cool. But one thing I noticed about this radio is it had this little black dot up here. This is actually a switch, and actually I don't know how well it's going to come through, but it's actually a dial light.
Oh, nice.
Is that coming through on the camera or no?
It's hard to see, but I thought I
It's
saw it.
kind of hard to see because it's probably too bright in here. Now let me try this. No,
At a certain angle, I was able to see it
I
briefly.
guess at a certain angle you could see it.
Yeah.
But there were a couple of radios, transistors I have. I have like an Arvin, and Motorola used to make a little portable radio that had the dial light on. So it was kind of a must-have situation. Here's the back of the radio. Sorry, I have the cover off. It's 4 AA's. It required 3 capacitors. One was kind of a dual inline pack where you had like 2 capacitors in one package. Did that, and then there's 3 IFs in here for the alignment and everything. I did the alignment and peaked it as best I could. It's not a bad little radio. It's actually kind of well preserved. This is the back right here, and then I think the case is what actually preserved it so well. The case is in really nice shape. It was just a little bit dirty, and I just kind of cleaned it all up. So
That's a
that
great
was a winner. But also in the box, I did not know that this radio was in there. This is also, I did a little research, also from 1961. This is a 7 transistor Bulova. It's from the watch company. Bulova didn't make this radio, but they used to sell these along with the watches, and that's what I had found out here. And some people kind of put their nose up at a 7 transistor, but this radio actually is a really good DX radio for a 7 transistor radio. And the red is it just pops.
Wow. That's
I polished it up with some Novus #2 and chased it with #1 polish. And it just shines like a jewel now. Let me see if I get the cover off here so you can see the inside. This takes you see, I have a horrible freight 9-volt battery, but that's just for demonstration purposes. The only problem with this radio was this also had a couple 10 microfarad. I think one was rated for 6 volts, the other one for 12, that were just toast. So I replaced those caps and the radio worked right up. The other problem with this radio is that I don't know how well you can hear that, the little snap when you turn the on-off switch, the spring steel that actually puts tension on the switch.
Yep.
It's off. So I have a really long pair of needle nose pliers. It's probably got a 3-inch, thing on it. I just grabbed the end of the thing and carefully put it over where it had to go. And now it's fine. And it's just the cutest a button little radio. And also, like with the RCA that I just had, here's the case for it.
Wow.
And this was really dirty, and both of these were kind of dirty, and they both cleaned up real nice. So that was a really nice Christmas present. I'm really enjoying these things. It's like with the cars in the same way, but the little transistors I had, those memories from childhood with my little Viscount 6 transistor and picking up all the New York stations. So I'm kind of reliving my childhood. So that was it. That was my Christmas gift.
That's awesome. That other radio, it's uncommon for that level of radio to have a dial light option.
Yeah, and you know what else is that I've seen a lot of these on the web that were either black or white. This is the only red one I've seen. So I think I got myself a really nice one here, kind of rare.
That's terrific. Both of them are terrific because usually I had to go up to the to the multi-band radios to get a dial light, because usually I had to go
Yeah.
go up
Yeah.
the ladder. So that's pretty cool.
So I'd like to just make a comment on those Kirkland batteries that you have in there, Robert. I have had an interesting experience with those. I used to swear by them and love them because they were so cheap. But I now find that the more recent, I'd say in the last 2 years, Kirkland batteries leak very, very badly. And they really mess things up. That's the bad news. But the good news is that with the Kirkland battery, when it leaks, you can wash it off with plain water. And that's very nice, because the what are the Duracell batteries, man?
Yeah.
If a Duracell battery leaks in there, it starts corroding the contacts at both ends, and you got to really use some kind of an abrasive or a file on those contacts to undo Duracell leaks. I wonder if anyone else has had similar problems.
I have.
I
Yes.
actually had that
Yeah.
problem this week. I was trying to I was trying to work on a CB radio, and I was going to actually use my 40-meter dipole. Because there's apparently there's a problem with the radio as far as the transmission audio doesn't sound very good. And for some reason I couldn't tune it. I got frustrated. And so I haven't checked the batteries in this for a while. And I think the MFJ, I have an MFJ, I think the number is a 259. It's the antenna analyzer that'll do just like a little bit beyond 2 meters. And I opened up the cover, and lo and behold, 2 of those batteries were starting to leak, and I got really mad. I'm like, well, I'm glad I got this now, or else,
Yeah.
I think I paid a couple $100 for that thing a number of years ago. I just didn't want it to go bad. So yeah, I've had it.
Yep.
And I'm
Yeah, I
aware
read
of it.
not too long ago that Kirkland sources their batteries from Duracell. So I'm surprised they have a different chemical makeup, but I stopped using them about a year ago, about the same time I stopped using Duracell. I won't put them in my stuff anymore, either of them.
Yeah.
What Duracell batteries are you using? Because I found here in Northern Connecticut, I have a choice of 2 styles, 2 colors, the traditional black and gold.
Yeah.
And there's another one, and those are the blister packs that hang on the wall. But also there's available at the local hardware store here, like orange colored ones. They're in bulk packs, and they're much cheaper. But the store actually did say that these are not as good as the normal Duracell. Which have you guys run into them?
No.
Are you talking the normal black and gold?
Black and gold for me, yeah.
Yeah. And I told my wife just recently, because I had two one a clock, wall clock, and one a personal clock that had leakage, and I said, that's it, no more Duracell. I'm done with these things. Buy anything else. And so I had to clean them all out. Fortunately, the leakage did minimal damage. It was easy to clean off, and all was good. But their reputation does precede them these days, because that's been the word on the street. And I was lucky not to have too many issues, but now I don't trust them. So their reputation tarnished.
When these batteries leak, were they dead, or was the thing still working?
In both cases, it was the battery had died, and so it wasn't super long. One was it was working and it might have been dead for, I'll say, no more than 2 months.
I've
Because
had them leak in a new package. Not
really,
even used
Yeah,
it.
I've had
Really?
them too. I've
Yeah.
stopped using Duracells ever since they started making them in China.
yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
that's interesting data.
Has anybody switched to Energizer, and what kind
Yeah.
of luck have you had?
Very good
Good
luck
so
with
far.
Energizer.
Yeah, so far so good. But it's early,
Wow.
but I bought everything. I've also used Rayovac, and so far so good. I think I used Rayovac because I thought there was a discussion on one of the, our club threads on that, and someone might have mentioned that, and I said, you know what? I'll let me go with that. And so I've used, because I have some of these portable multi-band radios, a couple of airline radios. I use only the Rayovac, and I've had no leaks so far, and they work well. So I think Duracell's going to get a lot less of my money, or was it Union Carbide? Should it makes them? I forget who makes them, but
They used to.
I
Yeah.
got a
Yeah.
simple and easy way to clean those contacts.
Has anyone had any experience with the lithium AAAs and AAA cells?
Don't get them wet.
BJ's also sells a different battery. I think it's something Johnson, Berkeley Johnson or something like that. I haven't really given them a serious try, but they're cheap like the Costco ones, Kirkland's were.
hmm.
Yeah.
I
It's an
just-
easy way to clean those. If they leak, if you use white vinegar and a Q-tip, you can usually clean the contacts pretty easily.
The white vinegar.
Yeah, it neutralizes the crash, whatever they call that, I don't remember now. But just white vinegar on a Q-tip does the job for me 99% of the time.
Fortunately, in most of my cases, it was just I was able to use a dry Q-tip, and it cleaned off well. So fortunately, the damage was minimal. I was just not happy to see it, especially since it was not sitting for like years in the in the item. The other one, I can confess, probably was in there a little longer than that, because it's not a clock I use frequently. It's more decorative. And I forgot about it. And I was just looking at it, I said, geez, I wonder if the battery, hopefully I took that battery out. And I took it out. It's like, oh no, it's a Duracell. So lesson learned. But yeah, it's interesting that everyone is having similar.
Oh, yeah. What I do now is I just buy the cheap batteries and just don't leave them in the stuff until I'm going to use it.
Yeah, that's the problem is with the clock, and I took
Yeah.
it out, and I just have to. It's problem is the clock. Like I said, it's a decorative clock, and it's only it's not that big. It's probably like, but it's a really neat clock. But I'm hardly looking at it because I also have an Alexa device in my office as well. So if I look at need the time, I just look and it's right there, digitally. So, but yeah, no, that's the lesson learned, is to really, if you insist on using like things like Duracell, is take them out.
Because I
Maybe
have
you'll get a bad
metal,
record.
because I have metal detectors, watt meters, I mean, BTVMs, multimeters. I mean, I got more stuff that's got batteries in them, and I
Yeah,
just can't keep up with them.
no, it's a good policy. I think that I think it's probably, even in the ones we think we trust, maybe we should probably to play it safe, take them out anyway. If you don't
Yeah.
know, it's like
Yeah.
maybe the quality control is slipping everywhere.
While we're talking about batteries, my over 300 transistor radios, every so often those that I can see, I go through and take the batteries back out, because I may have put a 9-volt in, or double A's or triple A's, to demonstrate it to somebody. And by the way, an ever-ready 9-volt does not fit in a lot of transistor radios, especially from the late 50s. After 60, anyone will fit. It's like about a 20 thou difference. And you can't even press one in, so you got to use, another make no matter what. So
That's interesting, Adrian, because I've encountered that once before and was a bit puzzled, but I remember looking back in the past saying, these have grown in size just a little bit subtly. That's an
yeah.
interesting observation.
Shall I do my hump thing?
Yeah, of course. Since you've
Okay,
got the
sorry.
you have the floor.
Okay, so I didn't receive any kind of a hump gift for Hanukkah or Christmas or New Year's, although it was my birthday on New Year's Day.
Well, happy birthday.
However, I was cleaning up my hand bench and I found this bunch of thin papers and books, and there was a kind of a hump in the center.
Hmm.
And I thought, well, there must be something under there. So I picked everything up and put it aside on another big pile of mess. And underneath it was this device. It is a keyboard tone encoder. And if I turn it over, you will see what you used to do with it. You used to place it on the telephone mouthpiece and dial a tone number. This was after tone encoding came in, but the phones were still the old type dial. So this was to use with a dial telephone.
How cool.
Yeah,
Okay,
you know, they have, Marbell at the time had those things, but they had an extended keyboard on it with tones that allowed you to get into long trunk lines and other things.
You know, well, this, as long as it was a number, you could do anything with this that
Yeah,
would
yeah.
that you could encode.
Do
But this,
you
so this is
remember,
my
remember Captain Crunch?
Oh,
There
yeah.
was a guy, yeah, the Captain Crunch whistles would put out a tone that would actually work on the telephones. I don't
26.
quite understand it, but that, in the 70s, that was a big a story that circulated a lot. Captain Crunch whistles.
Captain,
Trivia.
I heard about some unscrupulous people that used to use them to make long distance calls on payphones without paying anything.
Exactly. Yep, yep.
right, but that was
Yeah, one
you
of my
could only
neighbors.
use,
Go ahead.
you can only use this after tone encoding was introduced onto the telephone system. I mean, if you had one of these for some reason, you probably would only find 1 in 10 telephones that would work on until basically about 1959, I guess.
Adrian, who was the manufacturer of that? Does it say?
It is, wait, whoops. Oh dear.
I know Radio Shack.
This was Remocon.
Remocon. Nice.
Yeah,
That's
it's not
probably a really good one.
it's not a not a sort of recognized electronic manufacturer that I know of.
Does anyone recall having to pay extra for your telephone service if you wanted touch tones?
yes,
I
I do.
vaguely remember, probably around 19.
In the 60s, it was $1 something a month for the,
Yeah, 65, 67, 66.
Well, you know, being in Rhode Island was a very unique thing because whenever they came out with something new, they tried it in Rhode Island first. So we had Princess telephones long before anybody else did. And if it worked in Rhode Island, it was going to work everywhere else. I'm not kidding you. That's when they were making the flip top lids for cans and stuff, they introduced them to Rhode Island first. But one of the things they didn't do was they were set up so that you flipped it and it came completely off. And that is why to this day, you will find these things with a metal detector. They're everywhere in Rhode Island.
Oh, geez. Oh, that's an interesting story. I know. Remember, I
Yep.
forgot they used to pop off the clip. But it's been so long since that's done that for me.
Yep.
You
Yep. You'll find those doggone things everywhere. You'll find them in the middle of the woods
know?
because birds used to pick them up because they were shiny. And you find them everywhere.
That's really interesting. Okay. Now, Bob, what are you going to do? You going to pop one?
No. This is a 250 milliliter can of Coca-Cola that I smuggled back from Japan when I went to Japan
Mhm.
in 1991. And look what's on top.
Uh-huh, yep.
Then,
Oh,
of course, you want to know how many calories are in the can. You just simply read that.
Uh-huh.
right, of course.
Here's the same thing in a Goya juice can
Hmm.
with a, but this is a new one with a pop top.
Oh, I Googled Captain Crunch, and there is such a thing. Captain Crunch bosun whistle. It put out a 2600 CPS tone, and it was, they said it's secrets of the little blue box. I guess people were using Captain Crunch whistles to make long distance calls.
Right, the blue
The
box,
question
yeah.
is, did they do
Yeah.
that on purpose?
I
Is
don't
that
know.
just
It's
coincidental or?
odd, yeah. Oh, anyways.
That's
So I guess Rhode Island is now going to be called the lab rat state.
the guinea pig
Yeah.
state or whatever.
I hope not.
Oh,
That was a funny story, Bob. I enjoyed that.
yeah, that is. That is. So let's see. Who else has something they want to show?
Oh,
I have a whole
I've
thing
got-
to show.
Let's see here. Gary, then Bruce.
Okay.
I'm next, okay.
Yeah.
This is a little big and heavy, but it does have a hump. Oh, you'll see when.
Ah,
Radio.
that's pretty cool.
It's vintage about 1959, 1960. AM. Oh, probably I should lower the screen a little bit, make it easier. AM and FM. This is an interesting radio because it has separate tuning. One side, this side is volume and tone, and that side is AM tuning and FM tuning.
Oh, okay.
And there's an interesting reason for this. And that's because in 1959, 1960, for several years, this is before multiplex FM. They were doing FM where one channel was on AM, AM station, the other channel was on an FM station. Usually they were sister stations owned by the same company.
Hmm.
And they didn't do it all day, maybe an hour or two in the evening. But this radio can tune AM and FM separately, and it would only, you only play one channel through what you see here. If you wanted to play the other one, you had to go by the other accessory that went with this looked exactly like this, but it was just a power amp and a separate speaker.
Interesting.
With that capability, if you had any amp and speaker to this, you could receive AM and FM together, separately on separate stations. It's a nice radio. It's a
unusual.
transformer chassis, 8 tubes, a pair of 6AQ5s, push-pull in the output,
Yeah.
2 speakers up at the top. It's a very interesting radio. I replaced the filter caps and the selenium rectifiers with diodes. They were accessible. That was easy. If I had to do over, I replaced the filter cap, 4-section filter cap with discrete ones. I would just pay Hayseed Hamfest to make a 1 and a 4 in a 1 container for me. It would have been much neater looking when I was done. But that's easy to do. But if you had to do any more on this, these are circuit boards mounted on a bottom chassis plate. You can't get at the bottom of the circuit board. If you have to unsolder or solder something, you got to get the circuit board out, and the parts you got to remove and the wires you got to disconnect. Oh, you need, God help you. That was, it would be a job. But I didn't have to do that. I got this going just doing filter caps and the rectifier diodes.
That's unusual. I've never seen one of those before.
And this is,
If I
these were around.
recall, during that time period, some AM and FM stations simulcast, and you could get the program in stereo using one of those things.
Yeah, that's what I was
What I
thinking.
was thinking is you could probably get stereo. How interesting.
That was there's 2 versions of these, an early and a late. I think the difference was in the FM tuner, because I think that tube was different. But later on, they did make a version of this which had one tuning knob for both AM and FM, and the pointer moved across both bands.
Right. That's almost cheapening the product a little bit.
Yeah,
Hey, Gary, what's on top? I see you look like those buttons or something, or is it just, oh, okay, it's just like a label or something. I was wondering what it was. I like it. It must sound pretty good for two speakers. It must be nice.
it's a very nice radio, and it's got some power with the 6AQ5s and push pull.
Imagine it would.
Hmm.
How unusual.
wonder if
This is the
that-
first one I've seen. Go ahead.
And
Go
what?
ahead.
I was just got to thinking, I wonder if that system was what the guys that developed, I think it was Motorola that developed Sequam, the AM stereo. I wonder if they had one of those things and that planted the seed for them to try to develop Sequam.
I don't, that was much later. That was
That was
like
in the
early to
late
mid
80s, I think.
80s.
Yeah,
And I think they were trying for a renaissance of AM radio at the time.
Mm,
I bought a car and I didn't know it. It was an 86 Jeep Cherokee.
mhm.
And I didn't know it. One day I'm driving home at night and I'm listening to AM station. Yeah, you can tell I'm a radio collector. AM, FM radio, and I'm listening to an AM station. I'm listening to AM station. All of a sudden I realized, holy cow, this is in stereo. And then I looked at the owner's manual and it referred to the radio as FM AM stereo.
Right.
It was a stereo AM radio in the car.
There was a short-lived trend where that was AM stereo was sort of, maybe it was a last ditch effort to try to keep AM alive.
there's actually an AM station in Michigan. I don't remember the call letters or the frequency, but there is a station in Michigan that still broadcasts in Sequan AM stereo.
Interesting.
I think some of the Canadian stations might be broadcasting AM stereo too. Because, you know, there's so much space there up in Canada between, you know, where people live. They
Yeah,
listen to more AM than they do FM.
it may be true. Yeah.
I think reception is tough in Canada though, too. So I think
Yeah.
a lot of them are probably listening to satellite radio in their cars.
I do.
Well, I know that here in Rhode Island, I can hear on some days, I can hear Zoomer radio from Toronto.
Oh, yeah.
On
I could pick
740.
that up here in New Jersey with no problem, full quieting, no issues at all.
Yep. Yep.
There's
It's
a
amazing.
couple of them that come in here really strong. 900 comes in really good too.
Yeah, they have a lot of clear channel stations in Canada because they're broadcasting to these very remote areas and, you know.
But I think they're also using better antennas though too than we're using here. To be
I
honest
don't
with
know,
you,
I don't know about that, but
well, there's only one New York radio station that's a 50 kW station, but utilizes a full half wave antenna. That's WABC AM.
well, you know,
770.
they're limited in here by the FCC to, I mean, they have to have a certain antenna for their, a lot of, some of these stations may want to use a half wave antenna, but the FCC tells them, well, if you put up a half wave antenna, you'll be.
Yeah, I
interfering
I
with the
just don't know
station.
how that's regulated in Canada, but I'm thinking that in Canada, they're probably using, you know, more, rather than directional, they're probably using more omnidirectional and they're
They
using,
are, they
you
are.
know, stuff
yes.
like that, because
Yep.
like you say, Bob, that's the way it is up there.
Yep. They
Yeah,
have,
but that's really interesting. I remember advertisements for AM stereo, and it was a short-lived duration of which I was advertised. Then it probably disappeared as quickly as it came. It was maybe, you know, maybe it was around that time. Seems about right.
Right up with quadraphonic, right?
Yeah, well, you know, that's an interesting point. But you know, since you haven't had me on a tangent, is yes, that was my father bought an early '70s Panasonic quadraphonic, and I think he bought it at Lafayette. You know,
Yeah.
you know, and he brought that home. It was actually pretty nifty.
And there were different standards too. There was CD4 and there was, you know, there were 3 or 4
Right.
different kinds of quad.
Yeah,
That's right.
It was neat though. I'll tell you, we had this, he had this sound effects record that he had bought years earlier. He used to play on his Telefunken console, and he had it set it up with the quadraphonic, and had this one of a DC6 taking off. So you hear it from the two sets of the speakers on the left side, and of course, there's nothing like the glorious sound of piston, radial engines on an airliner. Four of them come roaring at you on the left side, and when it flies, it's something that's flying right over you because all speakers are running, and then the right speakers just cover the plane as it's flying away. It was really cool. I loved it when he played. It only happened like once a year he'd play it. It had all these weird sound effects, but that was just fantastic.
Some of the quadraphonic LPs, I had it was just a Simon and Garfunkel, I don't know, Sounds of Silence LP.
Yep.
But it was recorded in quadraphonic.
Columbia did a lot of that stuff. They really pushed it. CBS Records and tapes, and because CBS, well, it was Columbia Records, and then it was CBS Records and tapes, and then they got bought out by Sony eventually and became Sony Music. But during that CBS stage, they did a couple of different formats of quadraphonics. I have a bunch of those records, but nothing to play them on. I mean, they'll play on a stereo turntable, but don't have a quad turntable.
Yeah.
I did sell that one, and I don't think it's because it sounds any better or because people collect. I think they just collect that because it's an odd egg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't get super duper money, but I did get significantly more than what I would get for a regular stereo record. It was just interesting.
Yeah. But it for the time was actually pretty cool. But of course you had to have the four speakers. There's the price points. I think people, it's taking up space. My father, of course, put the speakers on the wall because he wanted the full sound, and it did play the part very nicely. But in today's world, it's hard to get people excited. It's like, oh, great, I have to find room for four speakers somewhere in my house, no less two. So it's but cool. That's really neat. So let's see here, Bruce. I think you had something.
Yeah, this is my first time calling in from my basement laboratory, and I had to use a laptop to call into the Zoom that I've never used on Zoom before. I know the video isn't great. Is the audio okay?
Yeah, we hear you great.
Okay, great.
Looks good too.
So I've got two show and tell items. The first one, my patient and understanding wife got me a Talking House AM transmitter for Christmas. It's a older model. It's a Type 2. There a lot of them that they're selling now are Series 4 or Series 5, but got a reasonable price. It was new in box, and I've spent the past couple of weeks playing with it. There's if you followed any of the forum discussions like on ARF, there are quite a few things that you need to try to address. I have a fair amount of hum, and there's some interesting discussions about where the hum is coming from. It's not the usual sources. Apparently, it seems to be injecting the AM signal into your house wiring, and then it sort of comes back and screws up the reception on whatever radio you're using it on. But I've got if I can do this, let's see if this will work. Is that visible at all? It's
Yeah.
right here. Okay, so I've got it hooked up to, hold on a second.
Anyway. No, nothing.
So this is my old S9 smartphone, and I don't use it for anything. It's the SIM card's taken out, but it makes a handy little Bluetooth device. So I've got my music on here. I downloaded a whole bunch of 30s music from a site that was pointed to from Antique Radio Forum, and it's going into my T60. I've got to go into coax up to a Part 15 compliant wire, of course, and then going into just a long wire attached to the T60. And when I pick this up, let me see if I can fast forward to Is that going through the audio okay?
Don't hear much right now.
You don't hear much?
No, don't hear much. At least it's,
Oh, that's interesting. Let me see if I can. Still not? Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I'll kill it.
Zoom tends to block out background stuff, so it might be doing that.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it might
Oh,
have.
that's too. Okay, sorry about that.
Quite
Too
all right.
bad. It was actually playing pretty well without any hum, and it
Wow.
it's kind of neat. I was pretty happy with it. The other show and tell I've got, my next project is a Webcore 1957 reel-to-reel tape recorder, and it's right there. And this is my first project since watching Santa Tom's restoration seminar last month.
That was
So I've got the
inspirational.
tools ready for it. I've got my whipped cream. I've got my ball peen hammer, and I have a reasonably sized crowbar, and I am ready to go to town on this sucker. It's actually, I'm looking forward to this because it was very, very clean. It belongs to a friend who inherited it from an uncle. And I took a look inside. It hasn't been touched by anybody else. And there aren't a bunch of belts in there. There's one belt on the counter. Everything else is idler wheels and platens and capstans. And so I think it's just basically going to be a recap and a re-ohm. And looking forward to that. And I have one question about this for you guys. I don't know if you can see the covering. It's like a Tolex, sort of similar to a Tolex covering, and it's kind of light. Is there any particular method you guys would attempt to clean that without destroying it?
Interesting.
I would
'Cause
look
I've
for
used-
an unsuspecting area and then just
Yeah.
take some simple
Yeah.
green, about 50-50 mix of water. And just go over to, and see how that goes first.
Yeah.
That's
Simple green,
basically how I do it. I just try to find a kind of area
Yeah,
that's
an
not
area that
too,
nobody's gonna see.
Yeah.
nobody's
Sure.
gonna see, and then just try it there first.
Okay, but you wouldn't use like Windex or
Oh, no,
no.
no. Windex has ammonia in it.
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
What about
I-
fantastic?
I remember the first radio dial I cleaned with Windex.
Oh, right. The rest is history.
Yes. Oh, I have a nice
Makes a
piece
nice
of glass
plastic
now.
platter. Makes a nice plastic platter
Yep.
after that.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's it. So I just pass it on to somebody else. But those are the two things I'm playing with right now.
The
I got
RC
one that I
1860
can,
is a nice radio, by the way.
I'm sorry. Oh, the T60. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
it's a
fun
real
to
nice
work on.
radio. I've had a couple of them.
I've got to go
Rob,
back
when
and
I-
redo it.
go
I've
ahead.
got-
Rob, when
never-
I,
Go ahead.
no, I interrupted you, Bruce.
I can't believe it.
I was just
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Next
What?
one.
anyhow, all I was saying was it was like the second radio I worked on, and there's still some things I want to go back on and finish. The push buttons don't work, and I want to try to make a second attempt on that. And the volume control pod is still kind of scratchy, but other than
I
that,
think those are the push buttons have like leather straps or something on them, and they
Yes.
break rather easily.
Yeah, there was one or two left, and so I just pulled them all off, and I've been trying to find a good material to replace them. I thought I had one, and that worked pretty well with the variable capacitor assembly out of it. I was pushing the button, and oh, this is great. I put it in, and it just didn't work at all. So I've got to revisit that.
Yeah, that's what
It's nice
happens when you're dealing with manual presets like that. It just gets weird.
Yeah.
Hey, Rich, what
So
were you showing before? I saw you put up your.
Yeah, I was just trying this. I know it's going to be audio negative, but let me just try this and see what happens.
All right. There you go. You ran this.
He can. We do hope this is working out for you.
Who's the bald guy wearing a pea green shirt? Oh, that's the Christmas gift I got, the dirty S120. A hand model too. You see how I'm modeling the way out?
Nice. That did come through. You have to put it right up there.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I don't know if any of the audio came through at all, but that was Bob's original gift grab at our, well, we had our holiday party, and it was our 30th anniversary of the club's existence. So it was a big shindig, and we had a great time. And I just wanted to, share that with you folks. Our club is, we've got, we're up to 245 members at the moment. And like I said, year 2022 was our 30th anniversary.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. And of course, that was a take from Radio Wild. You might know that guy who puts out those videos. A guy named Radio Wild.
I think I saw some. I thought I saw that guy on TV who was trying to steal a catalyst out of a Honda Civic. Hope they locked that guy up.
Well, I hear that guy works on cars.
Yeah, some people just never grow up.
And John, the other thing I'd like to talk about briefly is a commercial. And that is last Saturday. I don't know if Bobby told you before I got on the call that
I did
we
not.
attended JD Auction Services down in Jackson, New Jersey. And it's two young members who you may have known or met up with, and that's Darren and John Tominski. And thank goodness we have some young members. It's always nice to have young members in our club. And they have put together a company, LLC, of auction services. And well, let's just put it this way. They have plenty of content. There's many people leaving the club and going off that way. Okay. And fortunately, we have John and Darren to pick up the pieces. And they've been really good. This is their fourth, I think. It's the second year in business now. Yeah, the second year in business now. So they're doing well. It's an ongoing concern, and there seems to be plenty of content out there, as we all know. And they will come and go anywhere they need to go. They will come up into New England to pick up, and they don't have to be dealing with widows either. They'd be happy to deal with live members. So just keep that in mind. And
Richard, are they on the internet, and are they selling on the internet?
No, they're not selling. No, you can't. We do take pocket bids, like Tom, if there's something you wanted stored in the catalog, I'd be happy to do that. As a matter of fact, something, it's funny you mentioned that. I took a pocket bid from one of our club members who lives in, I'll call upstate New York. And he was looking at one of those spy radios that you enjoy. And he had given me a pocket bid of $450, the max. And so I was sort of anxious about it. Okay, let me make sure and let me get up there and get ready to bid. And then, well, Darren was doing the auction at that moment. And he said, we have a reserve on this and it's $1,000. So that knocked me out of the box for Barry Berg quickly. And I think it went to 1,100 immediately. And that was the end of the auction. So obviously, very well that that's big bucks items. And if I don't know if Bobby mentioned the $7,100 Western Electric speaker. The more you pay for it, the more it's worth, and the better it sounds too. And so they did well. They did very well. And New Jersey Antique Radio Club had a lot of content in there also. And InfoH had a lot of content in there also from donations. So all around we did well. But
So
to get,
Richard,
you know,
what I was wondering is this entirely an in-person auction, or can you also see it and bid on the internet?
no, you can't bid on the internet yet. Let me put it that way. You
Okay,
know, I don't want to speculate. They have talked about it. They know it's kind of difficult and it's sort of out of their, beyond their reach right now. But it may be possible, or they may hand it over to somebody else. I mean, you can see it on Zip auctions, but I don't believe they're actually engaged with Zip auctions as to. bidding.
Actually, Rich, they could go to my Radio Wild page, and if they look at the last video, and I actually with a lot of help from my wife, by the way, because my wife and I were both at the last auction this past Saturday. My wife, I was trying to appease people and answer questions and move stuff around. Envision what you normally see. Let's say the older Estes auctions. This is kind of like that same kind of setup. So if you go to my video, it's about 10 minutes. You could probably see some of the action there. And also at the beginning of the video, I have a link to their website. So you could actually click on that link and it'll take you right to JD Auctions LLC. And you can, I think it's probably still up there. You could actually see a lot of the items that gone up for auction and how you can get a hold of them and all that. So good guys. They're both very, very knowledgeable. And like Richie says, they're much younger than both of us. So that's a good thing.
And New Jersey Antique Radio Club members, Bobby being one of them, there was about 8 or 9 schleppers, we'll call them, that were helping with the auction.
Sure.
Hey, I resemble that remark.
That's funny. That's funny.
But
Oh,
it's
so what was that's good to know.
exciting day. It was an exciting day. And all right, yes, you're New England, but we had license plates from New England down too. We had people from Virginia all over. So, and the next one is in March. It's in March.
It's tentatively scheduled for March, but there's no set date yet.
Right. Right.
So you have some time to ponder if you actually like to make the trip to New Jersey.
As long as it's not the first weekend in March.
Right. And, if you folks would like to bid something, I would take on a bid for you, a pocket bid. I haven't got a problem with that. We can reciprocate in PayPal. But if it's something really exotic and it goes in a flash, then it makes it real easy for me.
Right. I guess what it has to do is be able to see the list of items if you're doing this remotely, is how to.
Yeah, well, they had a listing and they had some photos too. Yeah.
Usually 3 to 5 days, depending on how fast they get things set up. They usually have pictures and or a written description list of what they're going to auction off. So you could actually see what's going to be up there. Actually, like I said, you could go there tonight or tomorrow or whenever you have free time and just look and see what happened at the last auction. It won't show you what the auction prices went for, but it'll show you what exactly they had this time around. This past auction was a very lengthy auction. It started at 9 o'clock in the morning and it actually went to 20 after 1 in the afternoon. So you had 4 hours and 20 minutes nonstop auction stuff.
Wow, that's a lot.
I'm going to
Free
say
bagels and coffee.
Free bagels and coffee. Matter of fact, if you watch my video, you'll hear Darren making the announcement that there are free bagels and coffee. And like anything else, my philosophy on coffee is you never really own it. It's a lease deal. So there are nice bathrooms there as well. So you can, get rid of it and then get some more coffee if you want. So
there you go. Yeah, beer and coffee have that similar traits.
It's held at a firehouse that Darren Hoffman is a member of. So that's
Darren is a volunteer fireman, and it's at the Jackson Township Firehouse. This my first time there was this past Saturday. They were using a different venue, and the feedback I got from a lot of people is they kind of like this place a lot better.
Yeah,
So,
very, very comfortable. Yeah.
I hope you'll really give consideration to putting it on the internet. I'm sure it'll bring in more members to the club. We actually ran an entire Hamfest antique meet on the internet, and it was a little more complicated than running an auction. With an auction, all you have to do is just have a live camera and have people telephone in, be the simplest way.
Yeah, you did that during the pandemic, right? At the beginning?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And it worked out. It was a wonderful, wonderful meet. Not as good as in person, of course, but at an auction, there are only a certain number of people who can attend in person, and this would
Yeah,
widen it out and increase.
Yeah, Tom, not to beat it to death, the only problem is where do you leave the stuff? Who's going to collect the stuff? And you guys had to deal with that. I know that. I remember. Yeah, for pickup.
Sure.
So,
Interesting. That was good to know. And of course,
JD Auction Services for us old people.
but we appreciate this club sharing of knowledge, though, Rich. It is appreciated because I think as time goes on, we fly into each
It's my commercial for them, and I don't get any discount or anything.
Sure, but no, I think it's good to share because it is going to over time become an increasingly significant problem.
Yes, yeah. They want to become the Estes of the East, as they say.
Got it.
I know that if you decide to go to my page and watch the video, it's only 10 minutes. I didn't put a lot of effort into it, but that's because, like I said, my wife did most of the videoing for me, and she did a really good job at it. But if you want to leave a comment there, or any kind of comment that's related to J&D, I'd be more than happy to pass that information along to John, Darren, and Richie. So, feel free.
We appreciate it, Bob. That's great.
Sure.
Sound like an interesting event.
It was. And you know what? At the end of the day, Sunday, I was tired and sore. And I was watching my Jets getting their butts handed to them on football day the next day. And I actually received a phone call from John Tominski, and he thanked me and my wife for, really helping out with that thing. And these are good guys. These are, and they're knowledgeable. So it's just nice to have that out. If you wanted to, if you had stuff you wanted to get rid of or looking to get, these are the guys to handle it, and they're doing a great job.
Yeah, I'll put the information in the chat. I've got a card. I can put it in your chat right here too. And one more thing, Bob is, what do you say? You're 65, Bob?
I'll be 65 in August.
Okay. But who was in charge of the schleppers?
You know what's funny? If I had to guess, I would say Mr. Ray Chase.
Yes. And how old is Mr. Ray Chase?
You got to remember, Ray was a Marine, and he's very regimented. And I went to Ray. Okay, Ray, what stuff you want to bring up next? Because I know that he knew about the club stuff. He knew about the info age stuff. He schlepped a lot of that stuff probably on the Darren's truck to get it over there. So Ray was kind of sort of in charge, and then John and Darren just went with the program.
Yeah, but how old is Mr. Ray Chase?
Oh, he's only 90.
That's true.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good for him.
He's kindly known as Mr. Magoo to his close friends.
I wouldn't say that to him, because remember, he is a Marine, and trust me, he's got 25 years on me, but he scares me sometimes. I wouldn't want to say anything wrong to him.
So Rob, I think you had something you wanted to show.
Which Rob?
Yeah.
You, Rob. I think you had spoke up earlier. Oh, sorry, there's two Robs right adjacent to each other. Both Robs are, of course, eligible. I thought it was you,
Yeah,
Rob.
well,
Why don't you take it first?
let
Are
the
you
other
guys
Rob go.
twins?
Let the other Rob go first.
Just different parents, that's all.
Oh, okay. Your brother's from a different mother. I get it.
Well, I used to be a Bob,
Yeah.
but then I went back to college at age 48, and I'm sitting in the room,
Good
in the
for you.
classroom, and
That's
the professor
great.
yells up, Bob, and 15 heads bobbed up.
Yep. Yeah.
And I said, uh-oh, I gotta change this.
That's funny.
That's all right. For the first 12 years of my life, I thought I was the son of a mechanic, so I get it.
There you go. Did either of you Robs want to show something, or did I just mistaken?
I'll
Yeah,
let,
I have something to show, but
there you go. Go ahead.
the other,
No, you go first.
I
I
can
just
go
got
first?
pictures.
Okay. My battery's low on my computer, but I have to take it into the other room to show you.
Okay,
Can you see, let's see here if I can show this here.
ooh, I
Can you
see.
see that okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is a Midwest radio.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And you can see let me get some more light in here.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah, now you can, let me see here if I can. Yeah,
Oh,
now
look
you
at
can
that.
see it pretty good.
Nice.
Well, this right here and these Midwest radios was metal. And they had a funny kind of textured surface, okay? And they all, very few of them, you found that were not rusted. And to try to restore that to what it looked like, it was impossible. So that right there is the metal, the original metal plate. But this is bird's eye maple veneer that has been epoxy laminated onto it.
Interesting.
And then once it dried, once it cured, I then, sanded it and refinished it. Now, I sent this radio, pictures of it, to a guy who has this big collection of Midwest radios. I have a new dial coming for this one. This one's pretty nice. This is, I think he told me, he said this was a 14 something chassis in a series something cabinet, because this cabinet, this style of cabinet was very rare. This is like Art Deco.
Yeah, it's
That's
beautiful.
what it winds up being like. So anyway, I told him what I had done, and he was just absolutely amazed at how well it came out.
It matches
said
incredibly.
Yeah, I'll try to give you a close-up picture of it here.
If you didn't, oh, thank you, Rich. If you didn't say, I don't know how I could have been able to tell that.
But you can see it probably better that way. But
That's
anyway,
beautiful
I'm
job.
going back to the other room.
That's a beautiful job. I mean, really nice job, Rob.
Yeah, I had gotten that radio when I had gotten it, it was quite a while ago. I had found it in this old antique shop in Quonset. And it was way in the back, and it was covered with junk, and it was in terrible condition, as you can
Well, I
imagine.
have one of those.
And but it did have all the knobs, and everything was there. So I haggled with the guy, and I got it pretty reasonably. And I didn't do anything with it for a while. And what I tend to do is if I have problems to solve in a radio that I'm going to restore, I will think about it for a long time. And what I finally decided to do was I said, I'm never going to get restore that panel. So what I did was and the funny part about it is that the original finish that Midwest had, this metal finish, of which nobody can figure out how they did, but it kind of resembled bird's eye maple. And what was interesting, when the guy saw it, he said, wow, that is so close to the original. How did you do it? And I told him, I explained it all to him. I had gotten this, 1/16 bird's eye maple veneer, and I sanded down the metal thing to bare metal, and then I used West System epoxy, and I had put a piece of wax paper on the veneer. And then I had wound up putting a board on that with heavy weights, and I just let it cure for like 2 days. And then when I took it all off, some of the epoxy came through the veneer, but it didn't adhere to the wax paper. So I took that off, and then I just sanded the metal metal, the wood surface on the metal, just like I would do a regular cabinet, and put several coats of tung oil on it, and as you see, that's it.
Wow. Really nice job. Really, really nice job.
Mhm.
So
Great.
anyway, that's it for me for today.
Oh, all right. Well, then we'll go up to Prescott, Bob.
Okay,
Rob, I
and
should
if I press share screen,
Yes, of course. Oh, did I? Oh, you know what? I apologize. Let me, there you go. Forgot to enable it. You are on, Rob.
all right, let's see. I have half, well, how can I say this? Oops. What, can you see that screen?
Sure can.
Mhm.
This is a weird radio that I picked up. It is a hump, you can see, but it's
Sure.
only half a hump because there's no power supply and a very strange looking connector, which I can show you when I go back to camera. But there's like 3 RF tubes, a detector, and then 2 audio tubes. And let's see, how do I get to the next picture?
Should be an arrow if you're using that. There you go.
The chassis, that hump part, is all a wrinkle finish, a gold wrinkle finished metal.
Huh.
But it's a Sonoro Model E that I can find nothing on, but it's from Saginaw, Michigan, and Sonoro is a New Jersey company. And it's Sonoro Phonograph is what I could find, but they went into radios for a short time. But look at it, says licensed only for radio amateur experimental and broadcast reception. Isn't that weird?
Ah,
Yeah, you know why that was? Because RCA was very stingy on giving out their patents, permission to manufacture, a license to manufacture.
Yeah. And this is also weird. The tuning dial has a counterweight. I've never seen that before. I don't know why, but that's what it does.
Very interesting.
how does it feel in the tuning? Yeah, what effect do you feel on it? Does it get more finer, give you a little more control?
So if you look underneath or right next to the tuning knob in the center, you'll see 2 strings.
Yeah.
I see them there, and then I see them down by the volume control. There's a pulley down there, and one of them is off. I mean, it has to be restrung. So I really can't answer that question yet. I'll get this thing running someday, but I can't find schematics.
What's the
And,
tube lineup? What is the
let's
tube
see.
lineup?
You go get you one?
Tube lineup. There are 3 26s on this side.
And the dryer in a little
And
plastic box.
I had it written down here somewhere, but I can't find any of my notes. My place is a mess right now. Or always, but okay, that's a 27 front.
All right, so it's an early electric radio then. It's about
Yeah.
1929.
The audio output's a 71, and the one in the middle here. Geez, I don't know. Where is it? Oh, CX 326, Cunningham. So I've been unable to find anything out about it. So I was going to start tracing it, but I just haven't gotten to it yet. But when the request came through for a hump radio, I go, well, there's a radio and there's a hump.
That's great.
So-
That's interesting.
So is it, I'm assuming it's a TRF? So there must be coils maybe
I
underneath?
suspect it's a TRF. Yeah, underneath it is, I should have taken a picture underneath it. Maybe I'll try to point my camera to it. Just, yeah, let me, let's see, how do I stop sharing screen here?
Here, I could do that for you.
Okay. All right. First off, that's the connector on it.
Jeez.
Yeah, isn't that weird looking? I've never seen anything quite like that. Here, let me put some more light on it.
It's unusual. Sure.
Let's see.
Would that be some kind of farm radio that they ran off a battery? Or a
Maybe.
wind
But
generator?
look at it, many connections.
Wow.
And there are speaker terminals on the radio.
I've seen that connector all the time at different swap meets. You won't have any problem with
Oh, okay.
that.
Now, this is heavy, but I will try to bring it up to the camera underneath it. You see what I mean? I haven't really gotten into it yet. Everything is all sealed in metal.
Jeez,
Yeah, isn't that weird?
jeez.
Look at that tube, that cylindrical tube.
Yeah,
That's,
it tunes. That tunes with the, here, let's see. Yeah, there's a knob here. It's like, it's a capacitor, that's what it is. Okay. But yeah, when you turn the knob up on the front, it goes in and out.
Holy
Whatever.
boy, that was not a cheap radio to build.
No.
No, no.
But
I can see why they went out of business.
Yeah, I say so, Carl.
yeah, so that's really all I had. It just I'm just getting started on it. If anybody ever finds any information on the Model E, appreciate it. But I think I'm gonna have to trace it, try to figure out what's in it.
It's really strange. I have some older schematics here. I'll take a look tomorrow morning.
I appreciate it.
I always thought I thought Sonora was based out of like Chicago or that area, but maybe that was later on.
Oh, I don't know, but nothing I found said Saginaw,
Yeah.
Michigan. And one article did say, I think it was on Radio Museum, said that they mostly made photographs, but then they dabbled in radios for a little bit.
My wife and I had a Sonora wind-up Victrola that we inherited, and it actually worked, and we kept it in the house for a while, and then we ended up selling it at Kutztown. We have a small house, and it was just kind of tough to keep.
It doesn't matter what size of house you get, we're all gonna fill them.
Yeah, that's true too. It worked really well, and I was just surprised that I had a crank up photograph with Sonora on it.
How interesting. Well, that's a neat item there, Rob.
One thing I would look at, Robert, because that chassis is almost identical to an American Bosch Cruiser 66. If you look it up, if you look at the dial, the position of the knobs and the tube locations, it's almost identical. And even the Cruiser 66 had that very heavy wrinkle finish on it.
Oh.
I would suggest you just look that up. Why in the nameplate is in the same location as your Sonora, so it's kind of bizarre, but take a look at that and see if it matches. I mean, the tube lineup isn't the same, but see if there's something close about that.
Yeah, okay, appreciate it. I will do that.
Great.
I just found an old antique radio magazine article about it. Not the radio itself that I can tell at this point, but I put the link in chat.
Thanks for doing that, Carl.
Oh, yeah, great.
There's another website, it's called grillcloth.com, where you can find some information. You can look up Radio Finder, you can cross-reference a radio just by knowing what tubes are in it. Some good information on there too for finding off brands and.
No, that's a good suggestion. Did anyone else want to have something to show? No.
It's kind of weak, and everybody will know it probably right away, and there's not much of a hump there, and until you push the little button, and then up comes the hump.
It's got a hemp.
What hump?
When Howard came up with that, I was thinking Young Frankenstein the entire time.
What hump?
That is cool.
That's my little Admiral hidden dial hump radio.
That's cool.
Does that hidden dial also work as kind of like an on-off switch, Noah?
Yes. When you push the button over here, that actually turns on the radio and releases the dial, and then you've got in the middle, you've got the volume control, and then on the outer end you've got the tuning dial.
That's nice. It's even got a little vernier tuning on there.
Yeah, little vernier tuning.
Wow,
that's cool. That's really
Mm-hmm.
cool.
That is cool.
Well, let's see here. I guess in the name of keeping the hump theme going, I can show something. Here we go.
German hump?
No, I don't. I
I
don't.
don't know if they ever did. I think everything was all very rectangular.
I have to do pre-World War
Ooh.
II to pull this one off. This here is an Emerson 38 that a good friend of ours, of my wife and myself, gave me. That was her father's. Her father bought it brand new when he was, and so she gave it to me with the promise I never get rid of it, which, of course I will keep to that promise. Now you can see, unfortunately, I tried, it works, but it's been worked on. You can see that somebody obviously put the switch in here, because obviously the switch here must be broken, not working, which can probably be replaced, no problem. And it actually is in not too bad a shape. It's actually cosmetically, it looks like it was refinished some time ago, probably would deserve like a refinishing. But it's actually a neat little radio. Now I have to check whether the Astucian, whether this was really this color, or did it get, when it was refinished, did it get painted as part of it? I'm a little bit unsure, because I haven't seen enough photos of Emerson 38s to be sure. But somehow, why do I think this was painted? Because I think if I see like little areas here, I tend to think this was, I might have to try and get that off, or find a different Astucian. But it's actually, it does have a little hump, so I can say, well, that qualifies. But of course, I'm not going to get rid. I'd like to try to restore, but unfortunately, the problem is someone has gone in there, because I found the schematics on Nostalgia Air, and it works, but there's no output. On the output, there's a problem on the output side. So someone has done some work, replaced some parts, but it's hard to follow what they've done, because like compared against the schematics, it's struggling. It's quite conceivable I might need a different set of eyes on this somewhere along the line, but you can see it's actually certainly in decent condition. And here's, of course I've since pulled the chassis, because but I haven't done anything with it. It's long sitting on a queue waiting to be looked at. But this is the radio, and it's one of the few. I've got a few American radios. This is one of the few I have, and certainly the only one I have with a hump. But I think it well qualifies. It's got a hump. Well, unless you're denying it, what hump? But
No, that's definitely a hump. I would just caution you of what appears to be asbestos on the inside. I don't know. I looked at the picture of the back of it. You got a couple sheets above the tubes when we were looking in the back.
Oh yes.
Yeah, just caution with that.
That's a good point.
But beautiful radio with a hump.
Well, a couple of things. The asbestos is probably there because of the tubes. And as long as you don't fool with the asbestos, you're okay.
Yeah.
You want to take it out of there, wet it down so it's not
Yeah.
friable. But also down below that, that's a very interesting, the smoke got out.
Yeah,
Yes.
the burn mark.
I think that's why it's not working.
Well, it does. Okay, it does.
Somebody re-ohmed it.
Well, let's think. The problem is, this was here before, because it did power up without a problem. No hums, no anything, just no output. I think this is a burn mark from a prior situation that was rectified, because I haven't done much with this radio. But
No pun intended.
Yeah, it could have been the power supply. That's why it was.
Yeah, it
Rectified.
definitely. So the thing will power, but yeah, you can see it's, well, it was from like, I think this is around 1934-ish, if memory serves, in that range. So it's, it definitely needs some work. But of course, I do want to, thanks for that advice, by the way, Howard, good catch. I have pulled the chassis, but that's all I've done. I have to think very carefully, because it obviously needs a new speaker cloth and other things, because you can see it's pretty haggard there. But it does deserve to be brought back to its prior life somewhere along the line. But I might have to actually consult Yes, I may have to give another look at this, but I may need some consultation because they said whoever did this did some definitely things that I can't sort out from the schematics. So I have to
Hey,
have.
John,
Yeah,
go back to the back picture.
sure.
There doesn't appear to be a power transformer there.
Let's see here. Whoops, I gotta move the, sorry, 1 second here. I just have to jockey things around.
There you go.
Curtain
There's
burner.
no,
Curtain burner.
yeah, and I'm wondering if originally, if it had a curtain burner power cord, or may still have it. Or maybe somebody put a big honking
Emerson,
resistor.
Emerson's
plastic
been known to
cord on
use
it.
a lot of ballast tubes in their radios, though. So there may be
Okay.
a ballast tube in there that we just can't see. I don't have the schematic in front of me, but I'm just
Yeah, I
speculating.
have to, that's an interesting point. I don't have the schematics with me right now. I'd have to go hunt them down, but that's an interesting point. What's going to probably happen is I'm probably going to be asking a bunch of questions, you know, when the time is right over the group list, because this one has been a little bit of a struggle, but I would somewhere along the line like to get this into workable condition. And I'll have a little trivia is I think when I first set up our club Facebook page for a period of time, this was our Facebook page cover until I found a much better one later. But I used our logo, but I needed something just to get the thing off the line. So I had nothing else at my fingertips. I said, well, this is fair. So at any rate, yeah. So this needs love, but it has lots of potential. I mean, it's all everything could be there, and it could be a really terrific radio when it's really done up.
It's too bad.
But
it's too bad.
Sorry,
John. It looks like it's too bad.
Yeah, I think AM and shortwave.
Yeah, it is. It's AM shortwave. I'm sorry. Yeah, I missed that, Carl. Yeah, it is too bad. So it is a beautiful little radio.
It is.
I won't get rid of it. So it's they were a good friend of mine. She made me a promise, and that's a promise. And I'm sure you guys have run into that in your lives.
I'll give you $500 for it, John.
I can find another one somehow and make it look kind of like it.
Right. All restored and say, look what I did.
John, I noticed in the back chassis picture before that the cord going into the chassis has no grommet. So it may have been a curtain burner cable, and it was replaced with a piece of twin lead or twin wire for the power.
You may be right. And I have to go look at it again. It may be that is fresh. That's a good clue, Adrian. I should have a look, and also I'm a little slightly smarter.
You'll see that on the schematic too.
Yeah, I got to dig up the schematic and have a look at this. I spent some time trying to figure it out, and I said, "Wow, I don't know why I'm not getting any output."
Did you look it up in Riders, John?
No, I went to the Nostalgia Air and grabbed the schematics off of that website. So there might be an alternate site. So is there a writer site I can find this? I got to remember.
No, I have the whole set of riders on CD. I can look it up for you if I.
John, the Nostalgia Air is a riders. It is the RCA riders.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's probably what you got.
Yeah, and hopefully I got the right ones. It was a little bit hard. I remember a while ago struggling to choose which one, but hopefully I got the right one. But I will hunt again on there, because this is I probably won't be getting to this until spring or summer anyway. But it certainly qualified for Hump Day, and it's one of those. Yeah, I'm sure you guys have all run into this. Someone gives you something, and even if they didn't tell you explicitly, you say, "I can't get rid of this. It's a good friend of mine. I won't get rid of this because he or she gave
$600.
Well, that starts getting into a German iron replacement, so you might be, but anyway,
He's got $1,000 reserve on it.
I think the divorce lawyer would be cost a lot more than that.
No, my wife would be fine with it, but because, you know, it's one less radio in the house, I'm sure, but I wouldn't want to tell our friend that, you know, what happens to it in that regard, but someday I will get it up into much better shape, but it is one of those, it's the oldest radio in my collection as well. Yeah, it's a meaningful radio, and I do want to get it up and operational when time allows, and also get it more cosmetically clean, get it into a station, and find, you know, it'll be a parts finding mission, I'm sure.
Maybe someone can tell me if you have a bunch of photos or images that you want to bring into Zoom for you guys to look at, how do you go about that?
So if you have it on your hard drive, for example,
Yeah.
okay, and you click on the first picture, you like usually, you know, use the photo app on a Windows, is that it'll give you an arrow. If you put the cursor to the rightmost side of your window, you'll see a little arrow that allows you to advance. And then what you do is when you share on Zoom, when you share, it'll allow you to choose which window you want to share, and it should be able to see the photo app photo and you click on it, and from there you have full control, and then you can just click advance to it.
Okay.
But yeah, if there are photos or something you want to show, we can certainly even dedicate, you know, a meeting towards it if you have lots of photos, because, you know, I'm always looking for content. So you'd be absolutely welcome if you want to do that, Rob.
Yeah, okay.
Just let me know.
Yeah, I would.
And if you ever, no, look at this. Yeah, sure. That's one big hump.
That's a small hump, actually. I mean, it's not very high, but
Oh,
that's
yeah.
that's been my project. The nice thing about humps on radios is the significant other doesn't try to balance a plant on top of it. Although this cabinet needs a lot of restoration anyway. But
yeah.
Now, what kind of radio is this?
That's a Pilot.
Pilot.
And the escutcheon for the Magic Eye is incorrect. I just put that there because I have yet to be able to find the correct one, and it's going to be a real task, I think. Not very common. But
That's nice. And of course, it's got a Magic Eye.
Of course.
Very nice. That's a handsome radio. Look forward to seeing it, because maybe you'll bring it to one of the club events when you have it good to go.
It'll be a while, because it looks like this was in a damp area. There was a lot of, I got it functional and it runs pretty good, but there was a lot of chassis rust and there was a lot of lifted veneer. But when I'm done, I'm sure it'll be presentable.
Well, that's beautiful. Well, there's been some really neat stuff. Does anyone else have anything to show? Because we're at 8:40, and I would normally, you know, Tom, I don't know, did you want to show anything, or do we want to defer? I'll leave it completely up to you. I don't know if we still have Tom here. He's out of the picture. There he is. Whoop, you're on mute there, Tom.
Doing something.
Okay, sorry. I'm good. I think it's getting late, and I'll save my stuff for next time.
That's absolutely fine, because in a quick looking ahead, I think for the next meeting, which should be, I will confirm whether it's Wednesday or Thursday. We'll maybe take a quick poll, but it's potentially going to be on a Wednesday. David Spivey is going to give us show some pictures, and we'll have a couple of short videos from the Texas, from the Vintage Phonograph and Radio Society, VPRS event that was back in early November. So we have some photos and some other backgrounds, so I'm sure he'll be able to give us a nice talk on what he saw and observations. And we have, you know, not many photos, maybe 15, 20 photos tops. So if we finish on the early side, Tom, we can certainly do Friedrichshof and anything else you want to do. So we certainly have a slot there, but that's what we're looking at with David. So we're already arranged for him to do that. And if I could somehow get John Comer to get his schedule in, we still have AWA photos we'd love to see, but we have other things we'll do if we can't sync up there. But at any rate, Well, it was a great meeting. Really appreciate you guys coming on. Looks like Wednesday looks pretty promising as we see the
Yeah,
same.
Wednesday's good for me.
Okay, well, it's good to know. So it sounds like,
Yeah.
put it this way, I know that Gary, you have a couple of conflicts, but maybe we can talk offline and see how that fits. But it sounds like is there any no's that Wednesday is absolutely a no-go? Other than some caveats from Gary for some other conflicts? Do we have any no's? I will send a poll out or some form out to the club to get some feedback, but I'm absolutely fine with it. If everybody else can sort of manage with it, I might just push it to Wednesday. So I'm calling it a tentative 2 weeks from now, Wednesday, and I'll see if there's any, anything that might tip the scale to keep it on Thursday. But I'm happy to do it if people are good. So at any rate, I want to wish you guys an enjoyable rest of your evening. Great, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And looking forward to the next meeting and seeing you guys again. And take care of yourselves. Be careful.
Thank you, John.
See you later. Good
See you
night.
guys.
Thanks, John.
All right, guys.
Thanks, John.
Take care.
Thank you.
John,
Bye.
fellows, thanks for letting me sit in.
You're absolutely welcome anytime.
Is Bob Bennett still there?